Okay, now that we've got this working on our client in development mode, we now need to rebuild our React application, redeploy it to our API server, and then tie up our loose ends with Heroku as well. So let's take a look at what we need to do. And we'll just close all of these tabs. And what we'll do first of all, because we're going to be redeploying our React app into this www root folder, then we'll make an adjustment to our package.json. So inside the client app and the package.json, what we want to do is, in our post build, is delete the www root folder. But because there's no command on Mac and Windows to actually achieve this, that's the same command, what we'll do is we'll just install a small helper package, and I'll just cd into the client, and what we'll do is say npm install, and we'll say RIM/RAF, and we'll just save this as a dev dependency. And this just means that we can use the same command on Windows or Mac to delete a folder. So what we'll do before we move our build folder, we'll say RIM/RAF, and we'll go up to our API and www root folder, and then we'll add $ampersand. So we'll do the cleanup of the www root folder first, and then we'll move it. So what we'll do is we'll go back to our command prompts, and let's go to the tab where we're actually running our client app, and let's stop our client app. And what we'll do is we'll use npm run build and press return. And of course I'll just pause the video because this will take a few moments to complete. So what we should have is all of our files recompiled, reminified, and populated in our www root folder. Now our work is not complete because we added, if we go back to our startup class, what we added is content security policies, and we've added some new JavaScript to our application. So if we start our app, then we're going to have things that are broken because we're not going to be allowed to run the Facebook SDK until we've fixed all of the problems that result from making use of such a thing. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to go back to UCSP report only and see what problems we need to resolve by adding them as custom sources, because we trust the Facebook JavaScript SDK. So what we'll do is we'll go back to our API server, and we'll stop our application, and we'll just say .NET watch run again, just to make sure that we've picked up the latest changes from our www root folder. And we'll go back to our browser, and we'll go back to localhost 5000, and see what kind of things we need to fix based on what we've done. So we've got lots of lovely warnings to clean up in our application once again, and that's because we've added tighter security. A colleague of mine used to say, he used to say to me, Neil, if it's not a pain to work with, then it can't possibly be secure. If it's painful to work with, then it's good security. And that's what he used to say, and yeah, he's probably right, but it is annoying because now we need to go and clean up loads of warnings. But I'm going to pause the video. You know what to do to resolve these. We've done it a few times in the previous section. And I'm going to fix all of these and come back and show you what I've done. So after messing around with adding various hashes and domains into the content security policy, I'm back to where I started. And we've still got this report saying refuse to evaluate a string as JavaScript because unsafe eval is not an allowed source of script. And we do not have this, so I still don't believe this, and I'm going to ignore it because we're in reports only. And if I take a look at what I've added into my content security policy, we've got an extra style source, and I've used the hash that was supplied for this one. We've got some image sources, and the image source is probably going to be a pain because we're not seeing all of the different locations that Facebook serves images from. So you may need to come back and adjust this even after you've published, as it may or may not display images from Facebook because they can serve their images from literally wherever they like. So the image sources is probably a tricky one for this application when we do connect to a service like Facebook, and we may need to reduce the level of security on this when doing something like this. And I've also got additional custom sources and an additional hash there for the inline Facebook JavaScript SDK. We'll need to accommodate that one as well. So once you have that in place, then do make sure your application still works by changing this to use CSP, and then restart your application and see if your application is still functional. So I'll just go back to the browser. Let's just refresh the page, and no warnings. Now we've put it into CSV. I'll go to the activities, and there's an example of what I was talking about. I can't display the image because it's coming from a different location now. And what we can do is simply add this new domain to our list of image sources, and let's go and take a look and add this as well, and remove the extra quotes and go back, and let's see if we get this working now. So I can see that I'm logged in as myself this time in Facebook. Interesting. And we've still got one more. And what's this? An inline style. And we've been given a hash here, so I'm just going to use this one as well. And let's just add this to our style sources. And I'll just add a comma here and quotes and paste this in. And yeah, it's a different hash, so that's fine. And what I'll do is I'll just go back and see if we get a clean bill of health. And we do. So anyway, now we have our working application, and we're on localhost 5000. Now we're ready to go and deploy to Heroku. So what we'll do is we'll go back to our console, and we'll stop our application, and let's cd up into the reactivity solution folder. And what we're going to do is commit our changes into this branch. So what we'll do is we'll say git add and period. We'll use the command line for this. And then we'll say git commit -m, and we'll say fb login complete, and press return. And we can push this on up to GitHub as well. So what we can do is say git push origin, and this is our GitHub repository, and we can say fb login and press return. And this will just go and do its normal thing and send our code up to GitHub. And what we'll find if we go and take a look at our GitHub repo, we'll find that we've now got a new branch, and we've got our main branch and our fb login branch. And this is one commit ahead of our main branch. But what hasn't happened is by pushing this up to our Facebook login branch is it hasn't redeployed our application. So what we could do, we can head over to VS Code again, and what we want to do is merge our fb login branch with our main branch. And to do that, what we need to do is say git checkout, and we can check out our main branch once again. And then what we can do is merge the fb login branch. So we'll say git merge fb login and press return, and all of those changes are going to be merged in with our main branch now. And when we push these changes up to GitHub, then what we'll find is that we're also going to deploy our new code to Heroku. So let's do that. And we'll say git push origin main and press return. And our code's going to go to GitHub, and it's going to trigger a deploy on Heroku. And if we go and take a look at Heroku, and we go to our activity, we can see that there's a build in progress. And if we view the build progress, then we'll see the same kind of output that we saw when we were doing this via the command line. And it's going to go ahead and deploy our new code. And it's much more convenient than doing this manually. So I'll pause the video whilst we're waiting for this to complete. So our app is now deployed again to Heroku, but before we can actually use our Facebook login, then we do need to tell it about our Facebook configuration. So inside our config variables, we're going to need to add an additional 2 keys. So we'll say Facebook and app ID and set the value in here. And what we also need is Facebook :app secret, and we're going to need to set the value in there as well. And there's one other thing we need to do as well. We need to tell Facebook about which domain our application is coming from. So what we'll do is, first of all, we'll make sure our application is still working. So I'm going to go to reactivities herokuapp.com, and we can see our application. I'm going to go to activities. I'm still logged in as Bob, so I'm just going to log out, make sure we can see the login with Facebook button. But before we can use it, we're going to need to tell Facebook about which app domains are allowed to use this login with Facebook button. So we'll go back to Facebook. So we need to go back to My Apps and go to the app we're working with, so Reactivities in my case, and we'll go to the Advanced Settings in our dashboard. And what we need to do is not coming this section, it must be in the Basics section. And what we need to do is paste in our app domain, which is the URL of our application, and then save changes. And Facebook doesn't need the HTTPS, etc. So now what we should be able to do is go test our Facebook login functionality in Heroku. So I'll just refresh this page, make sure everything's good, and I'll click login with Facebook. And I've got the option to continue as myself, which I am just going to do this time to save messing around. And we're in. And we're on our production environment, and we've now got the Facebook login functionality set up. Hurrah! Now, don't forget the caveats I made. Facebook login in development mode will only work for your own personal Facebook account, which is why I was able to use my own, or the test accounts you've created. Anybody else that wants to log in using Facebook, you need to get your app approved with Facebook themselves. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that functionality. In the next parts of this identity cookbook is refresh tokens.